This is the GoPro Max 2, the latest 360 camera from GoPro, and while it's fantastic in a few areas, there's a couple of areas that I hope they can improve through firmware. I spent the last few weeks testing this camera out, and we're going to break down everything that is fantastic about the Max 2, and also the areas that they need to improve. In full disclosure, GoPro did send this camera to me to test and review. I get to keep the camera, but they're not giving me any monetary compensation other than that, and they don't get any input or get to see this video before it's launched. Now, before we dive into what makes this camera really good and some of what sets it apart from the competition out there right now, there's a few things you need to understand about 360 cameras. One, while this does film 8K up to 30 frames a second, it's not 8K in the traditional action camera sense. It's 8K of a complete 360-degree sphere around the camera. So you're capturing everything all the time. And like most 360 cameras on the market now, you do also have the option to capture just one lens, either in the front or the back at a time if you want to. But because this is a 360 camera, I'm going to focus mostly on the 360 camera aspects. So when you're capturing a 360-degree sphere field of video, that makes this camera really good for a few things and not so good for some things. So you need to understand that going into it, that if you're into action sports and you're moving quickly through scenes like downhill skiing, mountain biking, any of those things, then a 360 camera actually is fantastic because you can capture multiple angles, you can capture absolutely everything while you're going through the scene. You don't have to worry about setting the camera up and aiming in a particular direction. You just can capture everything that's going on around you. And one of the benefits of 360 cameras is because of the way they combine the two different lenses or the two different cameras and into a 360-degree sphere. That also means that you get rid of whatever is directly between the camera here. That means your stick or your mounting point disappears and you get essentially sort of what feels like a floating camera out in front. Now, it's not completely floating camera because you will see the shadow and stuff like that, but it does offer you ways to get shots that you can't really get with any traditional action camera or traditional camera. And then that comes to the way that I like to use 360 cameras, which is behind the scenes footage. They're great for being able to just set it somewhere and capture a shot that you ordinarily would take a little bit more time to actually capture or would be a lot more difficult to capture. I love using 360 cameras for these odd angles and odd shots that give you a different perspective or a different field of view than you could get with any other camera. But that comes with a hang-up. Because you're capturing a full 360-degree sphere with two 4K cameras combined to make 8K, that means you're going to lose a lot of resolution because you're going to take that 360-degree sphere and then you're going to crop in to make a 16:9 or a 9:16 field of view. And to do that, you're cropping in quite a bit, and you're going to end up with maybe around 4K actual UHD footage, or maybe a little less, depending on the original resolution that you're working with. And this is where GoPro actually does shine really well, is they're giving you actual 8K of used pixels, as opposed to the other 360 cameras that are out there, which might be giving you slightly less than 8K. Now, whether that makes a difference in the end footage, I don't know. You really have to pixel peep to see, but it does give you enough resolution that when you crop in to a wide field of view, you actually are getting full UHD, full 4K. So it does look a little better, at least to my eyes. Probably not so much once it goes through YouTube's compression, but it does. GoPro is giving you a really good image. And if you like GoPro's image from their action cameras, then the Max 2 is going to fit right in with those and give you some really nice looking footage. And like I said before, you can use the Max 2 in single lens mode, either from the front or the rear, and get just that shot. And that actually looks really good too. It's just you got to remember that you are on an ultra wide field of view because this camera is designed to have both lenses or both cameras combined to create that 360-degree sphere. So on the stuff that the Max 2 does really well, it looks really good. The footage looks really good. It has some of the most detailed footage, and that's, again, because it's actually getting a little bit more resolution than most of the other 360 cameras out there right now. And it's also giving you 10-bit, plus you can use a much higher bit depth rate if you want to use GoPro Labs. You can go up to 300 megabits a second. And all of that works together to just give you a lot more detail in all of those small little objects. Now, how much of that you're going to see on the end, is negotiable or negligible, maybe, depending on how you work with the footage in post. But pretty much all of the footage you're seeing right now and all the footage you've seen so far, I filmed in 8K 30 in 360-degree field of view because it just does look really good, and it gives you a really great option to be able to reframe in post and make the footage kind of point at or do whatever you want. Or in the case of some of these shots here, you can frame it wide and you can frame it vertical, or you can frame two different shots from the same shot. And one other area where I think GoPro, the Max 2, is doing better than any other 360 cameras on the market, at least in most cases, is where it stitches together by your hand. Most 360 cameras using the invisible selfie stick, at least I have not had good results in where my hand is holding the pole. The GoPro Max 2 seems to be doing the best overall. However, occasionally I do get some odd stitching artifacts in the corners, and I have seen this on other 360 cameras too, like the X5 and the Osmo 360. But I definitely noticed it in a few spots on the GoPro Max 2 footage where it was like it was having a hard time deciding where to stitch it exactly as it was being stitched together. And another thing the Max 2 does really well is stabilization. Now, this isn't unique to the Max 2. Pretty much every 360 camera out there right now will stabilize incredibly well because you're giving the algorithm, the processing power, so much data to work with as far as being able to stabilize it in post, because you're capturing a full 360-degree sphere. So it gets a lot of data for that computer system to be able to analyze it and stabilize it out. But the GoPro Max does really well at stabilizing footage, especially when you stick it on the back of a helicopter and everything's vibrating and moving around it. And to be able to get that footage as stable as it is really showcases the fact that the Max 2 does an excellent job stabilizing. Now, the one area where most action cameras start to fall apart, and GoPro has always historically had an issue, is low light. Now, historically, GoPro has not done well in low light, and that's true generally of most action cameras. But I did find a space where we can see how this does in low-ish light. Yeah, let's check it out. And here you can see as I took it into this glacier ice cave, which was incredibly dark, this is where you do see a lot of noise start to build up and some of the issues start to appear. Now again, this is incredibly low light, and most action cameras won't do a great job. And GoPro has never claimed to be a great low light king, but they do have some interesting things that you can do with GoPro in low light, like the star time lapse or star trails time lapse, which can give you some really cool, really fun results. But just know that like this thing looks great in good lighting. It looks great in bright sun. It looks great where there's a lot of light around and you can see everything really nice and clear. And the footage out of this, I think, looks some of the best out there right now from any 360 camera when you have good lighting. But if you're going to go into really low light, then yes, like the Osmo 360 or the Insta360 X5 will do better because they have those dedicated low light modes. Even though they are heavily processing the image to get those images to look that way, they do look better and they do better in low light. Another area that I think GoPro is just doing amazing at is the user replaceable lenses. Now, we've started to see this on things like the X5, and that's fantastic, but GoPro has taken it to a whole nother level in making it so that all you have to do is twist the lens, it pops off, you can twist a new lens on, and there you go. There's no calibration needed, there's no special tools needed, you probably just need to wipe some finger smudges off, but that's amazing. Because these cameras are made to go in action scenarios, the likelihood that you're going to damage a lens is pretty high, and I've damaged a lot of 360 camera lenses at this point. So having user replaceable lenses in the field that easily with no special tools is fantastic. Another thing that I noticed right away about this is the buttons. It sounds stupid, but these buttons are so nice to push. They're super tactile and they perform really well. Now, everything else you're gonna see is really similar to any other GoPro menus that you may have used. Like it works exactly like any of the other ones. One thing that the Max 2 does that other 360 cameras don't do, at least not without an accessory, is this includes GPS data built in. So there's a GPS chip built into the camera. So if you want to monitor, your speed, all of that sort of stuff, it's easy to do with this. And with this, because the X5 and the Osmo 360 can pair to their respective wireless systems, or in the case of the X5 to Bluetooth wireless, GoPro can, the Max 2 can also pair to wireless systems and give you direct audio. It is Bluetooth audio, so that means it's extremely limited bandwidth, so it doesn't sound the best, but you compare it to pretty much anything. You compare it to AirPods. If you wanted to pair it to a set of AirPods or AirPod 2s, you could pair it to a DJI Mic 2 or DJI Mic Mini or anything that can do Bluetooth audio, the GoPro Max 2 can pair with, and it can give you some pretty decent usable audio. And another thing that I really do like about the last couple, the Hero 13 and the Max 2, is the fact that you get quarter 20, you can use magnetic mounting, or you can use the traditional GoPro finger style mounting, which makes it really versatile to be able to mount it in many different ways. If you have older stuff or the newer stuff, the magnetic mounts or anything like that, it makes it quick and easy to swap this around with the Hero 13, or if you're using multiples of these or whatever, it makes it super easy to swap around. And if you have older GoPro finger mounts, like I use on my FPV drone, it's super easy to be able to pop the fingers out and then go right into just using the traditional kind of, I guess, action camera finger mount system. Or in the case of a selfie stick, being able to just screw it onto the top, a quarter 20, and then you're set to go. Makes it really nice. And that brings us to some of my frustrations in using this camera. Now, while the footage I think is right up there among the best in good lighting, it really is. It looks fantastic, and you get 10-bit, you get the highest bit depth. If you want to go up to 300 megabits a second, you can do that with GoPro Labs. That being said, the desktop app, which is generally the way I like to work with 360 footage, is really slow and cumbersome to work with. Now, this was also true and still is true of the DJI 360 app. So the best way that I found to work with the 360 footage coming off of the Max 2 is I just used my iPad, and I worked with all of the footage that you've seen in this video on my iPad and exported it out and then pulled it into my NLE and edited it in Final Cut Pro to put this video together. It actually on the app works really well, and for the first time, I'm a GoPro subscription, Plus member or whatever, and you get unlimited cloud storage. So for the first time, actually, I was like, oh, I can upload all my footage to the cloud, which made it super easy because then I just work with the footage on my iPad on the cloud and go from there. But I do think that GoPro can spend a little bit of time on adding some features to their software, especially to the app software, to the app definitely, but especially to the desktop software to make it easier to work with the 360 footage coming off of this camera. Now, working in the app is pretty simple. It's pretty straightforward. It's pretty intuitive. You can use object tracking. You can do keyframes. You can do POV, which basically locks the direction. Like for the FPV shots, I just kind of lock the direction I wanted to be for the entire thing. Or the same thing with the helicopter. You can lock the direction. And that works great. But I wish there was a way to also do that on the desktop app. That would be really nice. So that's, I think, probably, and working with the footage in post, like that is not unique to GoPro. That is every 360 camera. Unless you're filming in single lens mode, you have to work with the footage in post to reframe and set up, which is both one of the best things about a 360 camera, but also one of the extra steps that's required to be able to work with the footage. But that's the price you pay for being able to capture everything all at once and get these sort of odd angles that you can't capture with a traditional action camera. And then that brings us to battery life. Now, I haven't had any issues, and it has been fairly cold, although not like super cold yet, but this does have a new battery design. It's an Enduro battery, so it's worked well for me in, temperatures down, hovering around 0 C, a little above freezing, not quite down to freezing yet, but it's worked well. That being said, the battery life on the Max 2 is a little less than the other 360 cameras that are out there on the market right now. Not a lot, but definitely a little less. And if you're going to ask about overheating, I didn't do an overheating test. Other people have. And while it's true, or at least from what I've seen, that the Max 2 tends to be the one that overheats the quickest, the reality is that if you're using these cameras the way they're meant to be used, which is where air is moving around them, they're not just sitting on a desk doing an overheating test, you're not going to see a difference between any of them. They all will go like well through until their battery is completely dead and depleted, which is actually quite a while. I ran it on the back of the helicopter for like 45 minutes or so, and I think I was already down to about a half a battery, and it worked great the entire time. So after all the 360 cameras that have hit the market in the last couple of months, I'm a little tired of working with 360 footage. For most people, you're probably going to want a traditional action camera unless you're doing a lot of high action sports and trying to capture angles that you can't get with a traditional action camera. That being said, I feel like GoPro the Max 2 in good lighting has the best looking footage out of a 360 camera I've seen. I think the Osmo Action or the Osmo 360 is probably right second best right there, and the X5 follows closely behind those. But we are talking about splitting hairs. There is so little difference between the three. GoPro definitely wins because of that higher bit depth you can get. If you want to go to 300 megabits a second, you can do that. But yeah, again, we're splitting hairs, and once stuff's posted on social media anyway, it gets so compressed that yes, you might see a tiny bit of a difference, but the difference is going to be really hard to see. That being said, the Max 2 is got some solid image quality in good lighting. But as for me, I am glad that there are no more 360 cameras on the horizon, because it is a lot of extra work to work and create these videos with 360 footage because of the amount of reframing and work with the footage you have to do in post. So next, you're going to want to watch this video right here. I'll see you over there. As always, if you have questions, ask me in the comments below or join my live stream, which happens most Wednesday nights at 4 p.m. Alaska time, 8 p.m. Eastern. We can have more of a conversation. I can answer questions that maybe I didn't get to in this video. I'll see you again soon in the next one. Cheers.